we're going to move through Deuteronomy 28 kind of quickly. In fact, I'm just going to show you the notes real quick because I am super running out of time. Not that my stream is about to like run out of time, but I am about to run out of time. Moses in Deuteronomy 28 is, again, later on now, as Moses is kind of approaching the end of his life, and he is renewing the covenant again with Israel, and he describes very similar to Leviticus 26, the cup of God's blessing and the cup of God's wrath. What it looks like to experience covenant fulfillment and the redemption of the world, and what it looks like to experience the opposite, the consequences of rebellion, the consequences of sin. And they're very, very similar to Leviticus 26, which we already looked at. And you can kind of see I've broken it down in the notes. How do I say? International leadership and prominence. Oh, the language of it is so cool. I hate to not bring it up. Let me just pull it up real quick because we can get through it pretty quickly. If I can type. It's awesome. I'm actually going to pull up my highlights so that you can kind of see. I have marked these up quite a bit, but it's beautiful. We're starting in verse 3. Blessed will you be in the city. Blessed will you be in the field. Blessed will be the fruit of your womb, the fruit of the ground, and the fruit of your cattle, and increasing your herds, the young of your flock. Blessed will be your basket, your kneading bowl. Blessed will you be when you come in. Blessed will you be when you go out. You can kind of see, I mean, it's awesome, awesome blessing that we can pray over Israel, absolutely, but that through Israel, as the covenant is extended, that we can pray this over the whole earth. I love it. The Lord will command blessing for you, your barns, and all that you undertake. The Lord will establish you as a people holy to himself, as he's sworn to you. If you keep his commandments, the Lord your God walk in his ways. All the peoples of the earth will see that you are called by the name of the Lord, and they shall be afraid of you. There's another prophetic word by another Hebrew prophet we'll get to later that says, they will be afraid of all the good things that I will do for you. Oh, it's so amazing. And the Lord will make you abound in prosperity, the fruit of your womb, the fruit of your livestock, and the fruit of your ground. Again, you're kind of seeing that recurring theme with the land that he swore to your fathers to give you. Oh yeah, that's good. And the Lord will make you the head and not the tail, that you shall only go up and not down, if you obey the commandments of the Lord. I love it, I love it, I love it. Beautiful, beautiful language. Let's jump back to the notes. Scroll down. The discipline for disobedience, discipline for broken covenant. Similar language. I know that's really small text for you to see on the stream, but I just wanted you to know you can go get these notes, and I've got these things broken down. And what's interesting is there's kind of two columns. On the left-hand column are kind of all the verses that reference a particular discipline, and on the right is the description of the discipline. So you can see if you squint, or if you try to zoom in on the stream, it says categorical curse is at the very top. And then I've listed all the places that are just a categorical curse, meaning like God's basically saying, I will withstand anything you do. So there's two references to population collapse and mass death. There's two references to agricultural collapse. So I try to categorize them and kind of break them down. And you can see the most references for military defeat and captivity. Verse after verse after verse after verse reference military defeat and captivity. Verse 25, verse 32, verse 36, verse 41, 48, and 63 and 64 really is a big highlight. There's also international embarrassment, mass death, plagues and boils. He says, I will revisit the plagues of Egypt will be revisited upon you. That's terrifying. Anyway, you can see those there. This is, again, the discipline for the broken covenant. And it's very similar language to what we talked about in Leviticus 26. So I'm going to jump ahead. Do we have time for Deuteronomy 29? Let me take a look. I could just give you the summary. Oh, yeah. Something that's cool about Deuteronomy 29. Let me go ahead and see if I can pull this up. I just want to point out maybe one real specific thing. Deuteronomy 29. Yep. Don't worry. I'm going to bring it up on stream here in a second. He's calling Israel to renew the covenant again. They're going through a renewal of the covenant in Moab. And bring back up the Bible. Now I'm in Deuteronomy 29. He summons all of Israel and he's reading the law and he is declaring all the great things that God has done. You have seen the Lord do before your eyes in Egypt to Pharaoh and his servants and all his land and all the great trials that your eyes have seen, the signs and great wonders. And one of the things that he references is divine preservation. And we see this theme revisited in future prophecies that when Israel is going through trial, that there actually still is, as they come out of the trial and into redemption, that they do experience supernatural preservation. There actually is preservation even in the midst of the trial. Your clothes that you've worn have not worn out, and your sandals have not worn off your feet. Think about that. Israel has to endure 40 years in the wilderness. And despite having the manna and water flowing from rocks and great things that we read about in those chapters, but he says, even your clothes have been preserved. You would have thought that would have all worn out. But he said, God even gave preservation to your clothes and to your sandals. And he says, therefore, keep these words of the covenant, and leads them through that so that you may enter into the sworn covenant of the Lord, which is making with you today, established with you today as his people, that he may be your God as he's promised you. And he says, this is a invitation to enter into the covenant that's not just extending to us today as we stand here at Moab in this generation, but it goes on to whoever is not with us here today. And that whoever is not with us here today, commentators interpret it to mean both. Somebody who might not be present, who's alive at the time, but might not be present at that assembly. But no, he's talking about also generations that are unborn. It's not just limited to those who are living there today, but he says this invitation of Deuteronomy 28 and 29 and 32 are extended into future generations who will experience an even greater fulfillment of this. So I love that. There's a little reference to those who are not here with us. He's actually talking about us. He's talking about modern day Israel. He's talking about us. I love it. All right. I'm going to skip that part. We can look more at that in the notes, or we'll look more at that in the discussion group. Repentance and forgiveness. Let's see. Do we have time for Deuteronomy 23? I think what I want to just jump to, because we are running out of time quickly, is Deuteronomy 32. Got to bring this home. I'll probably revisit some more of these in the discussion group at the very end, but I'm trying to keep this to an hour of the stream. So let's just get to Deuteronomy 32 real quick. What's interesting is that in Deuteronomy 31, just as a little, this is what I want to mention about Deuteronomy 32. In Deuteronomy 31, Moses is convinced, he's very sure that Israel is going to face times when they experience future rebellion in future generations. Even though they're here at Moab, they're about to go into the promised land. They are presently renewing their covenant. They're about to go into the land. The wilderness season is about to end. It is like things are going up. And Moses still in Deuteronomy 31 says, I am convinced, I have seen a future where Israel still will rebel against the covenant. And so I'm going to write this song and I'm going to record it in Deuteronomy 32. Deuteronomy 32 is the song of Moses. He says, I'm going to write this song and you're going to have to keep this song and give it to Israel when they are experiencing discipline, when they have rebelled against the covenant and they're experiencing discipline. This song will be a song of remembrance and a call to repentance and a promise of restoration. So I've got a little bit of an outline of the song there. It's fascinating. I would just love to spend an hour going through that, but we're running out of time. So as much as I love it, there's a couple things I want to point out. In fact, let me make sure. A couple of verses. Oh, where's it at? I might actually have it highlighted. Jumping down to 32. Bear with me for a second because there's just a 1 or 2 points I want to really hit with this. Oh, yeah. Okay. Good. Okay, I found it. I'm gonna pull up the Bible again. Boop, there it is. So the basic outline is that Moses is recalling the marvelous works of God, calling Israel to remember the great things God has done, how great God is. Yay. But even though God has done these great things, in that prosperity, Jeshurun has grown fat. That's another name for Israel. Jeshurun is the Israelites that Moses is referencing. He grew fat and he forsook God who made him and scoffed at the rock of his salvation. Essentially, Israel enters into rebellion. Even though they experience the fulfillment, in the future, they do rebel. And again, saying this from the perspective of the time of Moses, he sees forward prophetically into a season of Israel's rebellion and sees that they're going to become vulnerable, that they're going to experience God's discipline and they're going to become vulnerable, and their adversaries will begin to consume them. The adversaries will begin to exploit their vulnerability. So this is kind of the sequence of the song of Moses in Deuteronomy 32 is God blesses Israel. He makes a covenant with them. And even though Israel experiences that blessing, there comes a season when Israel does rebel against the covenant. They experience the discipline of rebelling against the covenant, the consequences of sin. They become vulnerable, and their adversaries begin to exploit that vulnerability unjustly and unfairly, specifically with the expressed purpose of consuming Israel. And here God has had to withstand Israel. Their vulnerability is because they've stepped out of the covenant, and their adversaries are trying to take advantage of that. So moving down, just summarizing a whole lot of these passages. Down. That's definitely not the most uplifting part of the song. But then he says, "Is it not laid up in store with me, sealed in my treasures? Vengeance is mine and recompense. For the time when their foot shall slip, for the day of their calamity is at hand, and their doom will come swiftly." Moses is speaking God's response. This is God's response to those nations who have tried to exploit Israel's vulnerability and tried to come and consume Israel in their covenant rebellion. God says, "Vengeance is mine, recompense is mine, for the Lord will vindicate his people and have compassion on his servants when he sees that their power is gone and that there's none remaining, bond or free. Then he will say, where are their gods, the rock with whom you took refuge, who ate the fat of their sacrifices?" He's kind of blending a little bit of language, referring to Israel, but really he's referring to the destruction of Israel's adversaries. Because look, this is his message to Israel. He says, "See, now I am he. Even I am he. There's no God beside me. I kill and I make alive. I wound and I heal. There's none that can deliver out of my hand. For I lift up my hand to heaven. As I swear, I live forever. If I sharpen my flashing sword, and my hand shall take hold on judgment. I will take vengeance on my adversaries, and I will repay those who hate me. I will make my arrows drunk with the blood of my enemies." That's brutal language, but he's talking about God is going to be Israel's deliverer. When Israel is surrounded by adversaries who are trying to exploit them in their vulnerability, God says, "I am he. I am going to be your deliverer. I am the one." Now, this is interesting because Balaam has said there is going to be the concentration of the messianic, there's going to be a messianic figure who's going to be the instrument of restoring God's covenant with Israel. And here God is saying, I'm going to be that messianic figure. That's interesting foreshadowing for what we'll look at later on. But basically saying, "I will be your deliverer. Rejoice with him, O heavens. Bow down, all gods, for he avenges the blood of his children." It's the children of the covenant, and takes vengeance on his adversaries. He repays those who hate him and cleanses his people's land. And then look at what Moses says. This is huge. At the end of the song, he's finished the song. He's told them, keep the song, even store it next to the Ark of the Covenant. Take heart, all the words for which I am warning you today, that you may command them to your children, that they may be careful to do all the words in this law. Again, we're just looking at this. This has been this continuous kind of conversation from 28 to 32. For it is not empty words for you, but your very life. By this word, you shall live long in the land that you're going over the Jordan to possess. Interesting. I mean, he's literally saying this section right here of what we've just talked about and what we've documented, even in this song, is critical to your prophetic destiny and the fulfillment of God's covenant with Israel. Super important. That's why we've got to start with it here in week 1.